Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? Today I want to talk to you about something near and dear to my heart, momentum. And no, I'm not going to talk about the momentum system in the game Broken Rooms that I've been reading, although I'm liking that system a lot, quite a bit, especially because you get to use dice pools of these bad boys. I love D12s. They're like my favorite dice. I never get to use them, and not very much, so I'm pretty pumped about that. This has nothing to do with that. It has to do with momentum and momentum killers in games. And this is going to be a personal video. And what I mean by that is, it's going to go over like my pet peeves, like things that I tend to think slow down momentum in games where I'm a participant, either as a game master or as a player. And you may decide that you're not as into momentum, or you may decide that, you don't mind when these things slow down play and kill the momentum. You may have some other pet peeves. So, I'm going to cover the things I thought of off the top of my head. But we've all kind of had this experience where play just kind of grinds to this screeching halt. And it's not just because like it's combat time, just sometimes just things just drag. And the momentum of the game is just completely thrown off. And I don't know about you, but like I like a game session where things happen. It doesn't always have to be action, 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 but we're just involved. It's not this thing where we're just kind of wondering like, oh man, when is this going to be over? Is the pizza here yet? There are smokers, they want to go outside and smoke, whatever's going on. Just something else. Can something else happen, that's not involved with this game? Because I think, I want to leave now. So I'll talk about the momentum killers that I've experienced the most. And, not really come up with any really big solutions, except, try not to do them. So some of the things are like lack of prep as a game master. Obviously that can kill momentum when they just have no clue what's going on at some point. I think too much prep can kind of kill momentum in a game session as well. And sometimes it just comes out as like overdone descriptions. When a game master just kind of goes on and on and on, and it's just like, all right, dude, that's enough. We get the idea of what this looks like. It's very ornate, and it's never really time for the players and their characters to do anything because it's just big. You might as well be watching a movie at that point. Momentum is kind of just shot. Another thing that I think causes a lack of momentum, or causes skips or halts in momentum is, with game master just saying no too often. There's a time to say no for sure, but a lot of times, when players say something, if it's not going along with your grand scheme, you don't necessarily have to say no, because this kills momentum, and a lot of times it's really not that important. I mean, let the players do what they want. It's their characters, for crying out loud. Let's see what else. Here's a big one for me. Well, you may disagree with this. Having to open the book, or having to open the book a lot. I hate that. It drives me nuts. And if you watch my channel, you get that, or you know that about me. I don't like a game to have so many rules, or for them to be so complex, or whatever, that you've got to open the book all the time. That drives me out of my mind. When we're learning the game, sure, of course, because we're just really, we're all trying to figure out what's going on. We're helping each other figure the game out. After that, it drives me nuts. Let's see what else. Complex resolution mechanics, and involving like excessive mathematical operations, or this die, this, that, and you have to remember you have a +4 for this and a -3 for that, or add 2 dice for this. At some point, when you're just trying to roll to see whether or not you did something, when it gets too complicated, and there's a sweet spot for everybody. Then yeah, that's just it's killing momentum for me. Some people absolutely dig that. I get that, where it's really intense and really intricate. At some point though, the momentum, it's all out of character for me at that point. My immersion, I guess, is kind of blown. So I think probably immersion and momentum for me kind of go hand in hand. They're different terms, but they hold hands in my world. Let's see what else. Rules discussions and rules lawyers. And you start getting into these discussions about the rules at the table. And once again, now all of a sudden you are out of character. And the momentum has kind of just stopped. Nothing's going anywhere except we're discussing the rules. And I understand there's a time when you don't know them. But then when there's, oh, well, you made a mistake here and you should have added +3 instead of +2. All right. The time for that is after the game, in my opinion. Let's see, complicated tactical planning, out of character. And that kind of goes in, it fits in a lot with like combat or other scenes. And, sort of ties in a little bit with the, having to open the book or all these complicated mechanics, but not necessarily. You can have that happen in a really rules light game where, yes, there's a time for some strategy, But when it just goes on and on and on, and we are no longer in character, and we're having this big giant discussion about the optimal thing to do. This, for me at that point, I'm wondering where the pizza is. The momentum has kind of been shot. My immersion is blown, and I'm looking for like, is there going to be pepperoni on it? Let's see. What else? Distractions. There's a big one for me. I guess I'm old and I'm a curmudgeon. Although I'll tell you what, my girlfriend is always telling me to get the heck off my phone. So I am guilty as charged many times. But any kind of distractions. This could be like phones, tablets at the table where you're obviously not interacting with the game. It's something on Facebook. It's so freaking important. You've got to look at it right now, or something on YouTube, and it better be one of my videos. I tell you what. Or a lot of social interaction, a lot of like I always call it like the nerd Star Trek conversations where you're was this episode one episode or two episodes, and all this kind of junk. The little nerd or social interaction we're having, a little BS back and forth at the table. A lot of talking out of character. A little bit of this here and there, quips, that's great, but there's a point where it just absolutely kills momentum because nobody's actually focusing on the game. And I didn't come here to listen to you two guys talk about if this episode of Star Trek was one or two, or if Captain Pike, God only knows. Don't even get me started. And I love Star Trek. Unfamiliarity, hard word to say, with the rules or with the system. And if you've been, if you're a player in a game, and God help you, if you're a game master, if you've been playing for a while and you really don't understand the rules, you're not that familiar with the system, please come on, read the book. Because if we're stopping because somebody just doesn't understand it over and over and over again, it just kills momentum. I think we have responsibilities as grown-ups to kind of know these things. Here's another one, just a general lack of interest. And that kind of shows. And some people are just plain old not interested in the game or that system or whatever. And even if there's those times when they agree to, yeah, I'm going to play this game, and they really don't want to. I have to watch myself with this. I'm in this Hackmaster game, so I got to be good. That shows sometimes when people just aren't that engaged and there's a lack of interest, and then it kind of drags everybody else down. Speaking, in that same train of thought, just unengaged passive players. If a lot of people at the table are like that, just drags things down. Just the momentum stops. When it gets to be your turn, what do? I don't know. Boom. Just you can hear the screeching tires already. At that point. And if you have a table full of people like that, it can be horrible. So I really, not big on that. Here's another one. Should have put this with the overdone descriptions at the top. Overacting on the part of the players, And of course, there's games where this is, that's the expectation. But, when people just go so far off, in character, but like they are now acting that character, there's no spotlight. There's a metaphorical spotlight, but I didn't come here to the game to watch you do Shakespeare either. So that can really kind of bring momentum to a halt when people just kind of hog the time. It doesn't just have to be acting. Whatever they're doing with their character, just kind of hogging the attention. It kind of brings the game to a screeching halt as well. And last but not least, because these are in no particular order, just kind of a clash of intentions. I was talking about that video response I did to Hammered. And, I thought about that because, we've all played in tons of games where it's obvious after a while. You can look around the room and maybe there's 6 people there, a game master and 5 players, and maybe there's 6 different expectations of what they really wanted out of that game experience. That's a bit much, but, I don't think it's a big stretch to say in a lot of games I've been in, there's probably at least 3 different expectations that these people really wanted from that game. And, we're constantly kind of pushing and pulling back and forth and, dragging the momentum of the game down. And sometimes nobody's actually has the guts to say, let's have a conversation about this. Back in the day, we just didn't have words for it. We weren't really quite sure. But now there's a bit of a vocabulary out there. You can talk to each other and say, hey, this isn't working, or whatever, or let's compromise. So those are momentum killers for me. I really hate it when the game starts to drag. When I'm looking for the pizza, it's a bad thing. Because I like playing role-playing games. What about you? What has your experiences been? What are your pet peeves? Do you think I'm crazy? And all that good stuff. Have a good one.